Excellent. So, hi, Alex. Great to have you here today. And of course, us from our end at Plogix, we're really excited to learn more about your artwork, the kind of art that you do, a little bit more of your history and background, kind of what got you into art. As many of you know, us at Plogix, we work with a variety of different artists, pretty much from all over the world on different fronts, modern, expressionist, figurative, all kinds of artists. So we're very excited to have Alex here today. And maybe just to get started, Alex, you can give us a little bit of an intro, some background on your artistic background, if you will, what
Okay.
got you started, and we can go from there.
It's an interesting story. I think about it a lot. It started in elementary school. I had a great teacher who just let us go and do whatever we wanted, and I fell in love with abstract. I fell in love that free, painting, just expressing. And along the way, I discovered de Kooning and his art, and it just kind of confirmed it for me that it was all right to just throw paint on canvas and express, and that people accept it. So yeah, so I started as a child in elementary school, and I put it up for a couple years. I put it away. Joined the Marine Corps. Did everything. I've done 30 different things. Every time I say something to my girlfriend, she's like, "You did that too, huh?" So yeah, so I've done a lot of things, and now I've come back to the art, and I've been doing it for 6 years, and I just love it. I just love to be able to create and express, and it captures me. And going back and joining the Marine Corps and my experiences from the Marine Corps, it's therapy. It's therapy for me. Getting out my thoughts and my ideas about my time at war and so on and so forth. So
Do
yeah.
you relate some of your time when images or whatever? Do you integrate that some in your art or
I it's more of an idea. It's more an expression of the thoughts and feelings of war and of just my life, just my experiences. So I'm not going to paint a gory picture. I'm going to express something, to that emotion in an abstract way. To maybe you
and
feel it, right?
because obviously I've discussed this with many artists, and it's always very different. But how is it for you in terms of a lot of artists when they are painting, they feel like they're expressing their emotions, or some artists even go above and beyond to say like, hey, yeah, I can go and see a type of painting, and I it reminds me of a certain place and time, or I know exactly what I was feeling the day when I painted that. Is it the case for you? Do you express some of your emotions from past experiences as you're painting, or you just kind of go spontaneous in the spur of the moment?
It's what it is. I'll put on my music, and that'll capture a vibe and energy. And of course, I'm in my thoughts. Like, what am I going to do on the canvas? What do I want to express? So it's really a combination of who I am, where I'm at in my day. All right, and just getting it out there. What colors do I have? What am I going to use? And then it's kind of intuitive. So I'll put it on there, and I'll be like, all right, I kind of see an emotion or a feeling, and then I'll try to bring that out, as
Have you
opposed to just
have
being
you
like, I'm gonna paint the landscape. It's more expressive in the fact that I don't know what I'm gonna paint. It's putting paint on canvas, seeing the idea or the picture, and then expressing that.
is that part of the reason why you like abstract a lot? I mean, have you tried other forms of art, or is it you've
I
always been
have.
mainly in
I,
the
I
abstract?
have. And sometimes I'll include some realism in my abstracts, to get the idea across. Um, but it's not for me. I like that freedom, just creativity, as opposed to just consuming. Like, you get a landscape and you regurgitate that. It may be beautiful, but it's a landscape, and I can walk past it and see God's work, and maybe somebody did a better job than him. I don't know, but I'm not into landscapes. I like to just throw paint on canvas,
That's great. And
abstractly.
you mentioned freedom, creativity. What do you enjoy most about painting in general or art in general, even if it's just viewing it? Is it more the process whilst you're doing it, or is it actually at the end, seeing the viewers kind of
I love the
experience?
process. I love the feeling, the energy, the drive. It's just it kind of you get lost in it. At least I do. Abstractually, since I'm not reproducing something, I'm caught in that moment in producing that creative moment. So, um,
You
yeah,
mentioned you got started at an early age. Was there any particular inspiration that got you started? Obviously, you got started at an early age from a child's standpoint. Then you went ahead and you did,
right.
a whole bunch of different things, like a lot of artists do. To be fair, I talk to a lot of artists. They have that kind of childhood creativity in them, and then they get carried away. Not really carried away, but they start doing other stuff in life, and then eventually they just come back to it. And when they come back to it, it's like more inspired than ever before. How is it for
Absolutely.
you? Did you have some sort of inspiration at a young age? Were you always kind of pretty creative in life, or did you have come that back and forth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My mother, who was artistic and creative, a handy arts and crafts woman, um, she inspired me to create and always accepted whatever I did. And then, life hit and I grew up and I had to get a job, and I had to be part of the system where I had to produce and pay my bills. So it was like art and creativity weren't there. But there was always this little piece of me like, I'd really like to paint something. So one day before the pandemic in 2019, I was like, I'm going to buy all the materials I need to paint. And I started right there. And I just threw up a canvas and just started throwing some paint on there. And it was pretty good. So I just kept rolling from there.
It's
So
funny how everyone, the pandemic was such a change in everyone's life. Some
right. It
for
was
the good, some but just a change in general, right? Some
right.
explored different
Absolutely. It was
things,
a very transitional phase
Yeah.
in society. So
Absolutely. And when you're painting, do you what kind of message do you hope to convey to most of the viewers? And is there a particular meaning or anything that you do once you're painting, or is it more spontaneous? And then after you kind of look at the canvas and you say, "Man, that looks like this," or "That looks like that," and then all of a sudden you have, whether it's family, friends, or whatever, looking at your painting, saying, "Man, that looks like something completely different than you thought of."
completely different. So what I see and what I try to bring out in the world that I live in, I'll put it up in front of my friends and they'll be like, "What is that? A woman carrying a basket, and a dog?" And I'll be like, "No, it's two guys running." It's just like they see different things, but it could be drastically different. Yeah, and so maybe it's a failure on my part, in my artistic abilities, or maybe it's just bigger than that, and that it does include those different scenes.
Do you paint quite big or small, or is there a particular
Big,
size
I
of
go
canvas
big.
you like?
I do big canvases, 3 foot by 3 foot. It seems to be my minimum. Um, I work out of a shed in my backyard, so I can't get anything bigger than 3 foot by 5 foot.
Otherwise,
So
you
I
would
do
go
prefer.
bigger.
I
You
go
enjoy,
big. I'd love to have a barn or a warehouse.
so
Yeah,
the
I
bigger the
just
better on your end. Like you feel
Yeah,
more
the bigger the better. I
freedom.
want to
Yeah.
fill up walls. I want to
Okay.
fill walls. I don't
Excellent.
want to, it's not a photograph. It's not going in a little, frame on the shelf. I want to fill a wall.
Do you use a certain combination of colors? Is there some sort of pattern or uniformity that you use, or every single painting is different?
Every
In-
painting's different. I have my base colors. I really like indigo. Purples are big, and then I'll use colors to subdue them and bring them in. So you put a like a darker color on. Well, I'm gonna bring a yellow. I'm gonna put a yellow on it, bring it back, or maybe a pink. You know what I'm saying? There's gonna be some some contrast in my colors.
and
So
you paint mainly in acrylic, or is there
no,
a
I do
different?
mainly acrylic. Sometimes I'll use some sprays. But yeah, I haven't dabbled with oils yet. I'm enjoying this. I love the fact, I could do an application and then in 45 minutes come back and that's dry. And then I can apply on top of it, maybe expressing the details of the texture of the painting, the valleys and the hills, lighting the front, darkening the back. So I do work in acrylics.
So but you like to do several layers, right? Because I know
Yeah,
that.
I do layers. I like to
Okay.
express with texture.
Okay, that's really good. Yeah. So you can basically start a canvas, leave it there for a bit, come back to it, and then tweak it around again, and
Right.
not.
I could shuffle it around. I could put it away for a couple of days and think about it. And I'll look, I'll take pictures of it and I send it to friends and they're like, oh, I see this. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm seeing that too. And I'll just tweak it over the course of a couple of days or a couple of weeks. It's not like, getting up there and just being like, I'm doing a face,
Yeah.
and just expressing a portrait and you knowing exactly what it's supposed to look like. So yeah, it takes a couple applications, a couple of days, a couple of weeks.
The reason I ask is because I heard so many, I've talked to so many artists now, and you see some of them, they mention that once I start a painting, I have to finish. I cannot stop. Then you have some others,
Really?
it's like I can take up to months and months on one abstract painting. I was just like, listen, I've taken months and months on one abstract painting. I've taken 5 minutes on another one. The one in 5 minutes blew people away, it
Blow them away.
completely.
Absolutely.
So it is,
Absolutely. I've done that.
and that's the beauty
Yeah.
of abstract nowadays. You just really the as you said, the freedom and the creativity are so widespread that it can be conveyed in so many different types of forms, so many different types of energies, and
Yeah.
there's a little bit more of a freedom for the viewer to actually, you know, kind of give it symbolism in any way it wants. So it's really, really interesting, and you have more and more artists now, obviously, getting involved in the abstract modern art realm. Which leads me to my next question. Is it difficult for you to kind of put your art out there, particularly nowadays with social media not being such a great component of the art world? Um, Given that it's abstract, um, do you feel that viewers don't get the same kind of experience when they are actually seeing your art on a digital screen as opposed to maybe at an exhibition or at a physical place? How is it for you? Is it somewhat challenging, or do you feel that at the
I
same
believe
time?
it is challenging. I believe it is because of using the textures. I'll use textures and I'll mix paint in the application so you'll get some of the finer colors in the drips, that mixing that you won't see in a digital format. And I always tell my friends like, "Hey, it's better in real life." And I feel it and know it. And I'm like, "It's beautiful, but you got to see it in real life to get the real vibe and energy of it."
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, it's definitely interesting nowadays, and even now with like the NFTs and everything going on.
And
Um, just a quick one, Alex. If I were to let the viewers know, obviously, as you know, we're at Plogix, we're agnostic, so we work. You're not entitled to obviously just showcase your artworks with Plogix solely. But if for our viewers watching, if they were to go check out, what would be the best place aside from Plogix to obviously find your works, get to know a little bit more about your background, the kind of art that you do, et cetera, et cetera. What would be the best place?
I believe two places, my website, brainjuicegallery.com, which the concept is I go to my studio and when I put it in front of the world, I have my little gallery. So brainjuicegallery.com. And then I put my pictures up on Instagram at Brainjuice Studio 2024. So those would be the two places. So if you really want to contact me, I'm available at either place.
Excellent. And I meant to ask you this at the beginning, but why brain juice?
I yeah, I like 10 years ago, I bought a logo for
Yeah,
$99 online.
yeah,
And I've had it, and maybe 15 years ago, and I've had it. I'm like, what am I going to do with it? I was like, do I start a skateboard company?
yeah.
Do I make a label for clothing, sell t-shirts? And I just had this little logo that I love. So you can see it on my website. I went with it because it's a flowing of my brain juices. It's just my abstract expression. So it's really is. It's my brain juice.
The very first time I saw it, at least it definitely caught my attention. So I think it's always good to be a little bit outside of the box and different. So that's great. Last question I have for you, actually. Uh, in terms of what Plogix is doing, and obviously showcasing art in in the big outdoor screens like Times Square,
Right.
and obviously our approach is a little bit different than most galleries. Um, how do you see the kind of the role of art in big screens? And we're looking also in the future at hotels and stuff too. So really kind of put exposure and showcases at the core of what we're doing. How do you see it in terms of art, and how do you
I
see
think
it
it's
as partners?
great. I think it's great. I think it's a great concept. And a little bit more about me is I'm an electrician in
Okay.
my daily life.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to install digital marketing screens at the local train stations here in New York. So I understand the concept and I support it. I think it's great, and I would love to get my art even on a little train station where maybe my neighbor is walking by and sees my art with my name on it. I think it's great.
Yeah. Well,
Being in what's that?
we've done train stations. You're probably familiar, but
I've seen
that's
it.
really funny that you say that because, yeah, not so much in New York yet because in New York we're mainly focused on Times Square, but
Yep.
Waterloo Station, King's Cross. So it's really interesting because sometimes, when you're in the what they call it the tube in London, New
Hmm.
York subway, you. It's interestingly enough, when you're doing nothing, you're just staring at something. I always thought, man, it would be perfect time to see, art right now.
Something beautiful,
So
art,
yeah, so
something beautiful.
art or
Yeah.
something beautiful or whatever it may be. So
You're in the
um,
subway. I don't want to talk about, I don't want to talk bad about the subway. I don't have to. But a little rat scurries by, and the next thing you know, I'll be like, yeah, I'd really like to see a nice painting.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and finally, what's next for you? Are you working on any projects in particular right now? Are you working on any paintings, or do you continuously
Um,
do art, or
I'm
you stop a bit?
continuously doing it. It's a day-to-day thing. I get home, I take care of my things, I feed my dogs, and then I go out to the studio and then, figure out what I'm going to do out there. Right now, I'm in an expressive phase. I'm in the creative phase. I'm really just stacking paintings. I want to do a big show. I want to be on somebody's walls. So I want to have a good quiver of art to start shooting arrows.
Super, Alex. And lastly, if there's one word that kind of describes you as an artist, anything the first word that comes to your mind that you want to leave the viewers, kind of as a word of identification with you as an artist for your work, what would it be?
I made notes before this and I actually put some words down. So I guess fleshless.
Fleshless. Okay, that's interesting.
Fleshless.
Awesome. Yeah,
Fleshless.
I can totally see that.
That was it's something I did in 5 minutes and I was like, wow. And then all my friends were like, oh my God, that's beautiful. You really captured it. So, it's raw, it's unfiltered, it's fleshless.
Fleshless, brain juice, super
Yep.
creative. Love it.
Awesome.
Um,
Thanks, Gina.
Thank you very much, Alex, for your time. Really, it's great learning more about your art. And again, from a project standpoint, we're looking forward to obviously helping you expose your work and getting everyone to see it now that everyone has learned a little bit more about your background and the kind of art that you're doing. So it's been a great session, and looking forward to working with you in the future.
Awesome. Me too, Gino. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram to support our artists.